All right, hello everyone, and welcome to let's go to this event. My name is Enea, and well, I'm responsible, let's say, or I do these events for Clarusway. And today we have a very special guest. We have Shaquille Cahill here. So welcome, Shaq.
Hi there.
It's nice to have you here. So before we start, just to tell people, this is going to be like a testimonial about your experience in Clarusway because you were a student at Clarusway, right? And you have started, let's call it a successful career, isn't it?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. So, Shaq, to start from the very beginning, can you briefly describe your professional background before or prior to enrolling in Clarusway's AWS, so Amazon Web Services and DevOps course? Like, did you have an IT background, or or if not, how did you decide to switch to IT?
Yeah. So before this last year, basically, I was driving semi truck for a company, and I was trying to work my way into an IT profession. I taught myself how to basically do like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I created a little bit of a portfolio, and and I did this all on my own, and it took me like a year and a half, 2 years, stuff like that to do that. Um, and I was putting feelers out there trying to get a position, and I didn't end up being successful at becoming a developer. But what I did end up doing was, so the thing about truck driving is that there's no like set time off, so I don't have a whole lot of freedom at the end of the day. Um, so one of the companies that I had applied with had offered me a position as a technical recruiter. So I saw that as an opportunity for me to open
Definitely.
up my schedule a little bit. So I took the opportunity, took a pretty substantial pay cut. I actually, through doing the technical recruiting, learned about the whole DevOps side of things. I didn't know anything about it, but I was fascinated with the whole deal. Uh, and after a conference that I went to, I actually got the chance to go to a conference for DevOps, where they talked about the agile methodologies, different DevOps terms, and all that's different, like Docker stuff, containerization, virtualization, all different types of stuff. And I was hooked immediately. So like I was like, how do I get into this? Because I don't want to spend another 2 years doing what I just did. Um, and here come, this is kind of where Clarusway kind of came in. I wanted something with structure, something that would help me put tangible projects on my resume. Um, that because like I wasn't worried about selling myself as a candidate. I was worried about not having enough on my resume to warrant someone taking a shot on me. So I looked at a couple different boot camps, and Clarusway had the best reviews. So that's kind of how I
Okay,
got here.
that happened. I've got one question related to HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So basically, you were kind of aspiring to become a front end developer, maybe a full stack developer, right? So now I kind of started the same with you. I did a lot of stuff with CSS, HTML, JavaScript myself. I got a bit into React, and then I decided to become part of the Clarusway's bootcamp. However, I really liked the full stack. So then, in 2 months after finishing the bootcamp, I also found a job. Now, I wanna focus into this part. You told me that you learned something by yourself, when it comes to HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Was it like through Udemy, through books, through YouTube tutorials? How did that happen in general?
So I did do a little bit of college, and I did like a programming course like for Python. So I did like an intro to Python class. And then I kind of looked into how long it would take for me to uh get an engineering like degree. And I said, yeah, right, I'm not going back to college for another 4 years. Um, so I just literally went on YouTube, and I learned as much as I could from YouTube, free code camp.
Traversy Media, maybe the guys, I don't know if you know Brad Traversy, there are like a lot of guys there. There's Dev Ed, like I
Yeah.
know a lot of YouTubers who do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I did a lot of like research on that. I I looked up different projects, followed along, and then I also like tried to reverse engineer it where I did it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I taught myself how to do stuff.
Okay, so I want to come to Clarusway and Bootcamp now, like because you started with like let's say with a front end part, let's say, and then you also have learned Python, and then you decided to do AWS, Amazon Web Services, and DevOps. So basically, you told us why, right? You choose that, but I would like to know like why Clarusway though, like
Okay. So none of this stuff is like a cheap investment, right? If I'm going to invest in myself, I want it to be something that would be considered one of the top-notch things, right? Really, that's what it is. You're investing in yourself in the situation. You kind of get what you pay for. So I was looking for something that had structure. I was looking for something that had like teachers that you could go back and forth with if you have questions. And I was looking for something that had like mentorship somewhat involved into the whole deal. So that was kind of like Clarusway checked all the boxes. So that's why I went with it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, the boot camps cannot be considered cheap, then need the investment to be sure, but it's still a much less time than a degree, probably, like if you start something from the very beginning. And
Yep.
of course, money. And at the same time, and I don't know like how it really works in the US, but like when you finish the college, it's not that you get the enough, I'd say, the enough technical skills, right? To get what the market demands. But, however, I'm not sure about this part. Now, since you were part of the Clarusway, right? Can you tell us a bit about the course? Like what was your maybe like your learning experience at the boot camp, like your studying method? Because different people have different methods. Like, did you need to be really patient? Were there any moment when I said I can't do these? That sort of things, right?
Yeah. I feel like patience is a good word. For me, I worked pretty quickly. I learned very fast personally. So at the beginning, when we were starting off and we were talking about Python and we were learning all this stuff, I'm just like, okay, can we like speed it up a little bit? um, uh, but I realized that I'm not the only one there, right? There are people there starting from nothing. So um, instead, I looked at that as kind of an opportunity for me to um, help out the people in my group, right? They say that if you can teach something, you learn it twice as fast, right? So that's one of the things. That's one of the ways that I went about learning. Was I tried to be a pseudo mentor type deal. If people had questions, we work through it together type deal. That's one way that I learn really well. As far as allocating your time and stuff like that, that's one thing that I would like, I'll put a little bit of emphasis on. If I were to tell somebody who was coming in what they were what to expect, I would first of all I would tell them do like 6 months of like technical like terminology research, right? So you're not asking questions about things that are kind of like what's a variable? Like you should kind of know the variable.
Okay.
Like I would tell people to kind of learn a little bit about the technical side of things before you jump in feet first. But for me, I came in with a lot of that knowledge already. So I had a little bit of an easier time than I think a lot of people.
Okay, so like this is really interesting for me too, because I want to share something with you. Right, my wife is a preschool teacher, and I always was trying to tell her like to quit her job. So I persuaded her to quit her job. She will quit in 3 days, and she already become part of a DevOps and AWS, engineering student now. She just started 4 days ago because I thought there's a future into this. However, so I want to really know people who are watching us, and I want to know for my wife because I'm going to tell her what is your advice on what is the average time that someone needs to study. Like I've been telling her that according to my own experience, but I had quite a knowledge before what you said, like you have to know the variable and everything. I already had JavaScript knowledge when it comes to my part. But I've always told my wife that 3 hours of the live sessions plus 4 or 5 hours should be a good time to study, because you will have the time. So what do you think? What do you think
Yeah.
is the ideal time?
So if you're starting from nothing, if you
Yes,
have
exactly.
zero, if you're starting from nothing, you have zero technical knowledge. I would say the live sessions are a must attend. And I would say that, man, at least 2 or 3 hours a day. Like get up a little earlier. Look at it on your lunchtime, like if you can. Don't just look at the Clarusway has a great breadth of knowledge and stuff like that, but sometimes you need things explained in a different way to really really wrap it around your brain a little bit. Use resources to use like just type whatever question you have in on like Google and pull up a Google search. And honestly, I've read articles, I've done YouTube search. If there's something that I didn't understand, I would go to YouTube first and then I would look at Google. Like I still didn't find something that I really could understand. And a lot of those Google websites do a really good job at like explaining things, breaking it down for you in different steps. So that's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. I'll be sure to let her know. I now I want to get to another question. Like as far as I know, right? Because that's what we have, so probably that's what you have. You had a lot of projects or assignments, right, from the bootcamp. So, what is one that you found particularly like challenging, or maybe rewarding, or maybe I don't know, entertaining? So, what is a project that you're really, let's say, would really like to talk about? Let's go that way.
So my favorite project was probably I really enjoyed the AWS like capstone project, um, which it basically you take a static like a web page, static web page or whatever, and you use AWS to basically host it on an instance. You're not just hosting it on EC2 instance. You're putting it onto your own DNS and you're creating your own VPCs, subnetting, all different types of things, like words that probably don't mean a whole lot to someone who hasn't come into the course yet. But uh, you know, you learn. You're basically it's a culmination of all the things you did in AWS, and it's really cool to me. That I loved. I really enjoyed that project a lot. That's actually what I talked about. Came to like interviewing, so that I talked about that project a lot, and I also talked about Terraform a lot because I really enjoy the infrastructure as code. That's probably the developer in me coming out because I still enjoy doing like a little bit of coding on the side, but um, Terraform is really cool to me, and it's very useful a bunch of different types of ways. So.
Okay. Okay. So, like, what I want to get to the next question, which is quite related to this one, right? So, as you know, like I said, as a junior, you or someone who just graduated from a bootcamp or school, you don't have a job experience to show. So, some people, the recruiters or employers, need to see something, which are the projects, right? Now, when it comes to this part, how much do you think that Clarusway has prepared you for the job market, and your role as a DevOps engineer? Like, was it really helpful? Where does project help for, I don't know, like the CMS, like the career management lessons? Like, just share your experience if you can.
Yeah. Preparing me for the job market. So I have a unique perspective on this, being a technical recruiter myself. So I kind of like I didn't have, like I said, I was a technical recruiter for a year, but like in that year, I hired a bunch of people and I know what they're looking for, right? So I have the fortunate blessing to look on the other side of the curtain. So for me, it was um, like Clarusway did a really good job at uh, giving me like the stepping stones, right? Which is the projects and the things that I can talk back to. You can't interview for a job and not have anything to like talk. You have to be able to talk about some of the projects that you've done, right? So I feel like the CMS, if I didn't already have the knowledge that they were kind of already telling me, it does a really good job at like emphasizing the right. CMS does a good job at talking about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is super important. as a technical recruiter who used that every day for a year, I know what they look for. I know how to get your name out there. I know all that stuff. Keywords that you need to highlight because on your resumes and stuff like that. And CMS does a good job of explaining that. It's kind of hard to get past that beginning phase because you don't really believe it at first. You're like, how can one platform like help me out so much? But
Yeah,
a little more than just a platform.
I could see when I was applying for certain jobs in Turkey, like it was, and I didn't apply to many jobs in Turkey, to be honest. Most of it was abroad for me. However, I could see, because I got the LinkedIn Premium version for that time when I was looking for a job. I don't use it anymore. So it was like, the job was posted 2 hours ago, and then you see 800 applications. So you think, okay, like it doesn't matter. But up to some point, you see that not everyone has a serious CV. You know, a lot of those applicants actually are not serious. So you start getting feedbacks. That's for sure.
Yeah. One of the coolest things that I think one of the things that I think everybody should do that they were talking about is reach out to some of these recruiters if you know that they're recruiters and just ask questions. Like you don't have to like go in there and try and angle for a job. Just ask questions about how they would handle certain situations. Like if you had something that popped up on you, you don't know. A lot of recruiters are more than happy to like tell you where things may have strayed a little bit or what you can kind of help yourself work on throughout the process. So that is, yeah, that's kind of something that prepared me a little bit for the job market, but nothing really prepares you like being able to talk about projects. Like I said.
Okay.
So
yeah, definitely.
if you have your projects and like if you do your projects and you don't have to know all of them like the back of your hand, right? Pick your favorites and then just be able to talk through them. Like that's what I did. Like I picked my favorite ones and I just talked through what I did.
At least you have to know what you talk about, right? Because there are many people who like to kind of copy paste projects, put them into their like repositories, and then it's like, can you explain that? Many people can know because like may feel unprepared, etc. So definitely, I agree with you. It's not only about project, but it's also and not only knowing, maybe you know it very well, you know how you did, but also it's important to be able to explain how you did for sure. For sure. Now, I want to talk a bit more about the job search part.
Mhm.
So after you complete the boot camp, you started looking for a job, right? Like everyone. So how was this process? Was it very difficult? And how did Clarusway help you with it?
Yeah. Again, this is kind of like an unfair, I like the peek behind the curtain thing for me. But I happen to know my local area very well.
Okay.
In terms of what people are looking for, just from talking to local candidates in my area. And it turns out there's a big market for people who don't just want to be remote. There's a big market for people, for juniors in my area that are willing to come into the office every now and then.
Can you mention your area, please?
Yeah, Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay.
So there's a big there's a big market for in the Midwest and Des Moines, Iowa, especially for people who are interested in coming into the office and just a couple times a week, like and learning in person. Companies are hiring more junior candidates in my area that like I said, are willing to come in and learn. So I knew that.
Okay.
So like when I was applying, I would pick positions that are specifically 0 to 5 years. And I would on my resume I would highlight, not highlight, but bold the skills that they look for, right? Bold the skills. And one thing that I always did with all of my applications, if I sent out an application, and I received correspondence that they wanted to do an interview with me. One thing that always impressed me when I was a technical recruiter was when people who did research on our company, right? Someone who took the time out of their day, go look at the company, tell me what we do, and be able to tell me things like the values and stuff like that. People who did the research always get sent forward for me. Like,
Okay.
so I knew that I wanted to be one of those guys. So every company that gave me hey, I want to schedule an interview with you, I'd go onto their website, I'd look up what they did, I'd look up their values, I'd ask them questions, and then you make a list of questions for them too, because an interview goes both ways. You're not supposed to just sit there and answer questions. You're supposed to have it's a conversation, basically. So if you know that, and I got a lot of people into. I actually ended up having three offers before the boot camp even ended because I took this approach. So
yeah, but like that, your experience like with IT recruiting, it seems like they like the best thing that could have happened to you. Definitely.
yeah, I mean it helped me out. And I would like to pay it forward. So like people who have questions and stuff like that, I'm more than happy to explain everything.
Yeah, definitely. I believe like people should reach you out and ask questions when it
Yeah.
comes to how to deal. Actually, now that I think, I may think maybe in the further future to ask people who at least live here in Turkey, or to tell my wife to ask them recruiters when it comes to that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you actually, I was like, I'm kind of, when you were talking, I said, okay, that makes sense. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I mean, you mentioned that you got 3 offers, so it is not a case when like you get your first offer, you get so excited, because that happens with a lot of people. However,
Yeah.
what did you feel when you got your first offer? Like, how was that moment?
Man, it was like it's a big weight off your shoulders. For me, I took a big risk leaving my trucking job that's paid really well to step into, but like I was capped out in that position. Um, so I took a big risk taking a step down in pay and shooting my shot the way that I did. And getting the first offer uh, was wild to me. I was like, wow, I actually like did it. Like I didn't think I was gonna be able to. I didn't think it would happen in a year. I thought it was gonna take a lot longer. Um, so the fact that it happened is crazy to me. Crazy
Okay.
to me. Like that's like it was like the way like all the stress and all the late nights of staying up a little later, then the classes to get some studying in, all the
You know,
all the extra hard work going to different so and most cities have this by the way. So if you have they call it the user groups, going to different like networking events for like technical people,
yeah.
going to a bunch of those in my area, doing all this stuff. I'm like, man, all this stuff finally paid off.
Yeah, because sometimes like you might feel that okay, it's not going to happen. A lot of people feel that,
Yeah.
um, but eventually it happens if you study hard. If you apply to a lot of places, if you know yourself well, like at least if you focus on conditions in a way or another, it's going to happen. At least we can say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing
Yeah.
I always tell people like is like don't start the journey if you're not willing to go through the work. Like because if you start the journey thinking of if, then it's probably not going to happen, right? For me, it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. So like when this happens, it'll happen. Like I will get my job eventually. So it will happen. It may not happen right away, but when it does, it'll be a good day. So
Yeah, it seems that it was a good day. Now,
yeah.
now let's come to the last part, which is about your job, right? So we
Mhm.
finished with the job searching, and we're at the job. Now that you work as a DevOps engineer, what are some things, let's say, I don't know, tools, skills, knowledge, whatever, that you learned at Clarusway and are very helpful to you now? It can be anything.
Yeah. Terraform. Terraform, I use a lot of Terraform daily. Um, I'm still like I've only been doing it for a couple weeks now, but it's so Terraform Grafana. Grafana is huge. Uh, I think we learned Prometheus maybe, but Prometheus and Grafana are they're similar. So right now I'm being made to set alerts essentially because there's not a whole lot of alerts set up for our application that we have. So I'm setting up alerts via Terraform on Grafana, and I'm doing a bunch of different stuff with it. So that's honestly what's helping me right now. Ironically enough, the company that I work for does a lot in Azure. So I still have yet to really like dip my toes into that portion of things, but everyone like the cool part about it is I tell everybody to set everybody in my class and everybody that I've talked to is to set the expectation early. Like you're not coming in, you're not an expert, no one's an expert, right? Set the expectation early, and that's get expectations, right? So that's what I did, and they're kind of giving me baby steps to walk me up the ladder. So it's really cool.
Okay. Thank you for sharing all this information. I want to say, like, since we have this conversation and since you have a job, I believe that you would advise, or let's say, tell other people that Clarusway is a good, or let's say you would recommend Clarusway to other people. Now, in case that you do, in case that you don't, please tell us. But in case that you do, what are like the key, let's say, events or the main or the best things about Clarusway that you would suggest to other people? Because there are a lot of good boot camps out there too, right? But some boot camps can be good when it comes to helping you find a job, because there are a lot of boot camps that have a lot of connections that may help you to find a job, but you may not be very good when it comes to the technical part, right? So what about Clarusway? What would you recommend? Like, if you recommend to people to be part of the boot camp, what are the main points of it?
Yeah, I would recommend, if people were to come be a part of Clarusway, I would recommend that. So the reason why I would recommend Clarusway would be because the breadth of information that they give you, like, and everything's structured, right? That's what I really needed. There's a lot of information on the internet, right? So, and it's really easy to get lost in the wave that is, looking into things or go down rabbit holes where you don't really need to. And that's kind of what I found when I was learning. I was teaching myself how to learn how to code in JavaScript, HTML, CSS. I found a lot of different things. It's like a dog when he sees a squirrel, right? You're like, oh, what's this over here? And then before you know it, you didn't get any of the work that you were trying to get done for the end of the night done. So Clarusway does a good job at, we're going down a list, right? And the teachers do a really good job of explaining. So if you have the time to sit through proctored lessons, if you have the patience to realize that this is a process, it's not going to get done in 4 months, maybe not even 6 months. It's going to take a while, right? You have the patience and the time, and you want the resources to get you where you want to get to at the end of the road. Clarusway is the place you want to go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, when it comes to the part of like when you mentioned there's a lot of information online, the point is that you need to, you need a structured, curriculum. I do the same, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. The point is that like there are different YouTube tutorials out there. They explain things. The point is that like you get confused sometimes. Like Udemy is actually better when it comes to that part because there's a structure there, right? But the point with that is that you don't get much of feedback. Like you watch videos, you try to code while watching, you try to do projects. However, you cannot get a feedback, and like when it comes to a boot camp, like Clarusway, do you get feedback immediately?
Yep.
And what you told about the dog, that they try to catch things everywhere. We call it a monkey hunger.
Okay.
Basically, you want to get them all. The point is that at the end you kind of get nothing. So I really feel that explanation because I had something similar. Okay, so I want to ask you the last question for today, which is about like when you look back at your life, let's say 1 year ago, right? You enrolled Clarusway, let's say 1 year ago, roughly. And now, how transformative was this decision for you? You know, like 1 year ago, you decided to be part of Clarusway. How much it has transformed your life, and how you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, the transformation is huge. It's even better than I honestly thought it would be when I started the whole journey. But for me, it like I said, it wasn't a matter of if I did this, then I maybe this would happen. It was a matter of when. So like I knew that this day was going to come. I knew that all of this stuff was going to happen, uh, and it's all about the work and everything that you put into it. Clarusway definitely was the stepping stone for me to get to where I needed, knowledge wise, as well as, um, you know, they gave me the resources that I needed to really like pull myself up. Uh, and that's kind of the emphasis that I like want to put on it. Like with Clarusway, no one, you're not gonna get hand fed anything, right? You have to go out, you still have to learn, you still have to put in the work, you still have to do the work yourself. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's wild. Like from point A back then, point B right now, the stress levels are way down.
Oh, definitely.
uh,
Also stressful. I also can tell that it's a period of time when you're happy because you're learning stuff
yeah,
and it's like it's stressful.
yeah. Now I get to like, and I can just like relax. I have a son on the way and all that stuff, so I get to just
Congratulations.
relax and thank you and learn with my new company, learn about the application that we have, learn how to do things, as well as take care of my family. So
Okay. Well, Shaq, thank you for this conversation. It was lovely. You know, I felt like I know you for a long time, even though it's the first time that we see each other. So thank you very much.
of course,
I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank everyone who is listening and will listen to this let's say conversation. We'll also share, if you don't mind, your LinkedIn profile so people can reach you and try to learn something from you. Yes, so that is all for today, or for tonight, let's say here, and for today where you are. Thank you very much for your time. It
of
was
course,
here.
of course. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.